And take some time now to settle into your posture, to settle into what the Buddha called this royal seat that we take when we sit down to meditate. And if it's comfortable for you, letting the eyes softly close. Or if you choose to keep the eyes open, let the gaze be soft and settle down towards the floor in front of you. Bringing awareness, gathering awareness into the whole body now. Feeling the residue of the busyness of the day you've had, perhaps, as sensations coursing through the body, busy thoughts in the mind, without pushing any of this away. Letting yourself land here now. Letting yourself land in the body. Feeling the weight of the body. Letting gravity draw you down towards the earth. This vast support of the earth under us that's always here, continually reliable as support for our bodies. Let yourself yield into this support now. Can you just let your body settle down another 5% more? Relax and soften another 5% right here. By letting go of tension, feeling where the body contacts the earth and the surfaces under you. So traveling attention and awareness now right down into the lower base of the body, or if you're lying down, in the back surface of the body. Honoring all these places where the body makes contact with the cushion or chair or floor. By bringing your awareness here into the feet, the legs, the buttocks, perhaps the whole surface of the back of the head. You might want to take a deeper breath or two here, and on the out breath, letting yourself settle down closer to the earth. As we let the body relax and soften, so then the mind can soften and settle. And then the heart can open. So we always start with the body, Always bring awareness into the body and let the body settle in its own time. And so from this stable base, this foundation of the body contacting the surfaces under you, if you're sitting, feel the spine rising up from this base of support towards the sky. Let the spine be suspended between earth and sky. Lengthening the spine slightly from the top of the head, up through the top of the head, but let the spine be soft. We're looking here for an uprightness and alertness and a softness at the same time. This is our frame of support, this strong base, upright, supple spine. And then around this, we can let everything soften, relax, and settle down. Especially the muscles around the eyes, let them be soft. The jaw, throat, shoulders, arms and hands, and the belly. Let the belly be soft. Let the mind rest into the body, this posture of support. Just as the body rests here on the cushion, chair, or floor. Let yourself rest here. Rest into this posture. Be soft and relaxed. And just as we bring softness and alertness to the body, so we can do the same with the mind by bringing mindfulness to the fore. Checking in with how the mind is right now. Just as you find it. And as you continue to attend to the condition of the mind, recognize that mindfulness is here. our good friend Sati, mindfulness. This quality we bring to remembering to just be here, now, with what's present. And with this presence of mind now, you might notice that the breathing is already coming and going. That the breathing is already happening in the body. Feeling the flow of this process of breathing. Each inhalation and exhalation. Noticing the distinction between inhalation and exhalation. Maintaining an awareness of the whole body, sitting here or lying here. And feeling the breathing coming and going within the body. Letting thoughts come and go, come and go. Gently orienting awareness back to the body, back to the breathing. And resting into this felt presence of the body breathing. Letting all your concerns, duties, responsibilities, any planning, is it possible just to put it all aside right now? And attend to this life of the body as you find it right now. This life of the body that we often ignore in favor of what's happening in the mind. Be with the body now, and be with the wider body of the earth as it supports you. Remembering this earthly existence that we're an integral part of, that we deeply belong to. Can you feel the flow of each inhalation, each exhalation? This natural and quite mysterious process of breathing. Can you be intimate with each breath now as it comes and goes, without needing to change it in any way? Let the flow of life move through you as breathing, as the energy of the air element. If you find yourself caught up in a train of thought, gently remind yourself that this is what the mind does, this is what happens. The mind moves. And sometimes we allow ourselves to get caught up in that train of thinking. Just notice where the mind has been, perhaps in past or future. And gently, without berating yourself, but with kindness, coming back to the present. And notice that the breathing and the body is already here in the present, is always here in the present to return to. These anchors of body and breathing come back again and again. To this home base. To the body resting here against the earth. And its intimate connection with this life through breathing. Just this breath right here. Noticing if there are any expectations here of how this practice should be going. Expectations of getting it right. Or whether the practice should be going differently. Just noticing that this is present if it is, and settling back. Let yourself rest back into the body. This is all you need to do here. Rest awareness into the body. Can you let yourself be here fully, intimately, with just this breath that's arriving right now? In this body that's carrying you through this life. How intimately can you be with the life of this body just as it is right now? Whether that's filled with tiredness or physical discomfort or pain or ease or a sense of brightness. Just this. And as much as possible, welcoming whatever is here into your presence, into awareness. opening with kindness, with gentleness, to what is here, what is already happening. So I'll just wait until you press record. Nikki, thank you. So welcome to this Dharma talk this evening, which I've called Working with Restlessness and Worry. So as the new year settles into a daily rhythm, I've noticed an old habit of my mind projecting into the future, planning, which I mentioned a while ago. And one night last week, I found it difficult to settle and sleep because it was so warm. And I found the whirring of the mind under the whirring of the ceiling fan becoming quite persistent. And I realized that, I had these visuals of calendars of the months ahead and ideas about the things I was needing to do or wanting to do in those months, and all these questions of how am I going to fit this in, what if maybe if blah blah blah, all those questions that arise in the middle of the night. And even though it was this very subtle thought stream that was wafting through a half asleep, half awake mind, I realized that the hindrance of restlessness and worry was definitely present. So this is an exploration of this hindrance of restlessness and worry. So yeah, when it comes to progress on the path, on this Dharma path that we are walking, we do need to learn to deal skillfully with these elements of experience that obstruct our practice. And central to this is our relationship to the 5 hindrances, which is the first contemplation of the 4th foundation of mindfulness in the Satipatthana Sutta. So in the 3rd foundation of mindfulness, we become familiar with the mind states themselves. So we learn to know what anger, for example, feels like, what joy feels like, what fear feels like in the body, in the mind. And then in the 4th foundation, we start working primarily with the causes and conditions of these mind states. So it becomes an active exploration, if you like, of what leads to the arising of these hindrances and how to overcome them. And then we can nurture the awakening factors. So these 5 hindrances are sensual desire, aversion, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and paralyzing doubt. And they're all elements of experience that when we're not mindful of them, they somehow block the settling and calming of the mind, and they prevent an opening of the heart. And this happens because the hindrances condition contraction and tightness in the body and the heart-mind. And so in this sense, they also help self-fabrication through our identification with what we consider to be me and mine. So it's crucial then that we work with them when they're present. And this is what I'd like to look at tonight in terms of restlessness and worry. Because once we've got skillful strategies to work with the hindrances, they lose their power over us, because we know what to do when they arise. And then we can move on to develop the awakening factors of mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy, serenity, collectedness, and equipoise. So the Satipatthana Sutta provides a lovely 5-part scheme of working with each hindrance. So the first step is to know when it's present. The next one is to know when it's not present, when it's absent, to know what leads to its arising, to know how we can remove it, and then to know what prevents it arising in the future. So I'd like to use this 5-part scheme tonight to briefly explore this hindrance of restlessness and worry. So restlessness and worry, in Pali, this is uddhacca kukucca, uddhacca kukucca. And sometimes it's translated as restlessness and remorse, or Maurice Walsh translates it as worry and flurry, which I think is quite a nice way of expressing it. So the first of this 5-part scheme is to know when restlessness and worry is present. And so, as some of you might recognize, this is synonymous with the first noble truth, to meet and fully know our suffering. So if we notice that restlessness and worry is present, how do we know that? And in describing the 5 hindrances in one of the suttas in the Pali Canon, the Buddha uses these similes of a bowl of water affected in different ways according to each hindrance. And so the Buddha describes the mind when it's clear from disturbance, being like crystal clear water in a bowl, in which we can clearly see reflected our face, and we recognize our own face in that bowl of water because of its crystal clear nature. But when restlessness and worry is present, the simile likens this to the water being ruffled by the wind, so that the water trembles and eddies and ripples on its surface. So essentially, there's a lot of movement that doesn't go anywhere, that doesn't lead anywhere. And so some of you, if you're familiar with this state of restlessness and worry, might recognize this. And so, as the Buddha says, in this state, if we were to look at our reflection in that bowl, we wouldn't see or know our reflection as it really is. So I think this is a good simile for restlessness and worry, because when we're plagued by this hindrance, the body can feel agitated, jumpy, over-adrenalized. We might feel that we're jumping out of our skin in some way. And similarly, a restless mind, like mine was recently in that midnight planning mode, it can be quite agitated and jumpy, with thoughts moving through at a rapid rate, this thinking, planning, which was what was happening for me. And quite scattered all over the place like a turbulent wind, trembling with activity. And I found a lovely poem by Anais Nin that describes this sense of adrenalized tension quite well. She says, "I'm restless. Things are calling me away. My hair is being pulled by the stars again." I think it's such a lovely image of, this agitated tension that can happen when things are calling us away. And I think just in my conversations with friends and family over the last months, I recognise this agitation. It's particularly alive for many of us at the moment, with all the various ecological, social, political issues that we're meeting right now in the world. And more generally, though, too, I think modernity has a sort of a penchant, if you like, for restlessness and worry. You know, the obsession that we have with being busy, on being enough or having enough. You know, things are always calling us away. Well, they are in my life, and moving faster and faster. The writer Rebecca Solnit says, "A restlessness has seized hold of many of us, a sense that we should be doing something else, no matter what we are doing, or doing at least two things at once, or going to check some other medium. It's an anxiety about keeping up, about not being left out or getting behind." So worry can manifest in the mind as regret or remorse about something that we've done or something that we haven't done in the past. Or it can be an anxiety about a future occurrence or of anticipated problems. Or it can be obsessive thinking. And this can be particularly strong when we wake in the night and thoughts seem to kind of loom over us in the darkness. An American author called Leo Buscaglia said, "Worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow, it only saps today of its joy," which I think is quite apt, because we're not worrying in the future, we're not worrying tomorrow, we're actually worrying now, and that's where the joy gets sapped. And I think also that the inner critic also finds a home in this hindrance, because the judge and the perfectionist, the controller, and the comparing mind really come to the fore in this hindrance. So that's kind of, encapsulating, hopefully, this first step of knowing when restlessness and worry is present. Like, what does it feel like in the body? What's the feel in the mind? what's the emotion that's here when we recognize that restlessness and worry is present? And then the second step is knowing when restlessness and worry isn't present, when it's absent. What does this feel like in the body and the mind? So if we take this bowl of water simile again, we might say it's that of the wind stopping. So the ripples and the turbulence settle down, meaning that we can then see things more clearly as they really are again. So the water in the bowl becomes crystal clear, and then it reflects our face without distortion. And I think that phrase, "without distortion," is a good clue here to what happens when restlessness and worry isn't present. So the manifestation of this in the body might be that the breathing slows down. We feel more at ease with the breathing. And you might have experienced that this evening. I certainly did, after a busy day of sitting and just settling awareness into the body and noticing how the breathing just settled down of its own accord, just as I let everything be as it was without getting tied up in it and entangled in it. The body can become calmer and more relaxed, so therefore it's not as jumpy. So then we can feel more grounded, and we might feel our feet against the floor again. So there's a sense here then that the body might feel more spacious or lighter. And in the heart and the mind, there, in my experience, is a greater mental clarity, and this sense of spaciousness and kind of like an objectivity, if you like, comes into play that isn't present when we're under the influence of restlessness and worry. And then there's this clarity, a more of a joyfulness, I would say, an openness in the heart and the mind when any of the hindrances are absent. So then we can settle into a more present moment awareness. So it's really important to get to know and appreciate this experience of absence as well when the hindrances aren't here. And I think this is a more subtle practice, because we habitually recognize them when they are with us, but when they're gone, we just forget about them. But it's good to really recognize the bodily and the heart-mind's experience of freedom from the mind states that hinder us, living fully in the moment and with flow of experience. And to really get to know the experience of not being not caught in this identification with experience. So then the third step is knowing what leads to restlessness and worry arising. And this step corresponds, I think, with the second noble truth of seeing the causes and conditions of our suffering. And this is where we can really start to loosen the grip the hindrances have on us. But having said that, simply recognizing that a hindrance is present, in my experience, it already clarifies and alters our attitude to it in some way. I think it already brings spaciousness and some level of ease. Just knowing that it's there, that clarity can already come into play. But knowing what leads to it is about looking at our relationship with it more deeply. I feel like I'm losing my voice too tonight. So in my example of being awake in the night and getting caught up in planning mind, I realized I was identifying with all the things I felt I had to do. So it was all about me and getting all this stuff that I had planned right. And at this point, we can interpret this struggle as meaning that we're off track, or that we're going badly, or that we're not the good meditator, or we're not the person we thought we were. That if somehow I had my shit together, so to speak, I wouldn't be laying here thinking about this. We can berate ourselves when we have that recognition. But this is actually where the hindrances are such great teachers on the path, I think, because it's the actual. This is where the actual fabric of our practice and deepening insight comes. So the question is really, how can we work skillfully with restlessness and worry and meet it without falling into habitual patterns of continuing to stay busy and doing and distracting ourselves from it? So I've found that two attitudes can help when working with the hindrances. The first one is to not take them personally, and the second one is to not believe what they're saying, not believe their perspectives or their stories, which are sort of two sides of the same coin, really. So by not taking the hindrance personally, I'm cutting through this message that I tell myself that I'm another unworthy meditator or an unworthy person because I'm feeling restless or worried. Yeah, does that make sense? Cutting through that self-talk brings some space to the experience. And then we know that this, just like everything else, is just conditions arising in a certain constellation, and that they will pass. This is just nature. It will pass. And then not believing the hindrance's perspective, not believing the story that it's telling me, then it allows us to see more clearly the stories and notions about me and mine and the world that the restlessness and worry keeps constructing and that keeps fueling it, that keeps feeding it. So this was my experience that night. Once I realized I was getting all caught up in the concept of not enough time and seeing, this, having the visual of the calendar months sort of getting jammed up and squished in front of me, I recognized the source of the restlessness, that there was a mistaken concept of boxing in my life somehow. And as a result, everything in my mind was getting tighter, contracting, and feeling mean rather than opening up and feeling the creativity and richness of the possibilities of these next few months. So when we catch this proliferation in this way, in service of these two attitudes, it's helpful, I think, at this point to ask, how did I get here? So what's brought me into this storm of restlessness and worry? Or we might frame it like, what's fueling or feeding this restlessness and worry? What am I believing about myself? Or what am I believing about others right now within this storm? So we're looking then at the nature of restlessness and worry with mindfulness, with curiosity, in order to see the pattern of reactions and fabrication. Yeah. So yeah, we're looking at it with mindfulness, with curiosity, in order to see the pattern of reactions and fabrication. And this takes time, it takes wisdom, and it takes kindness. But every time we do this, we're cutting through the power that hindrance has over us. And when we can see the form of the fabrication and how the mind builds it, then we have the clarity to know how to dismantle it. And this is part of the next two steps. So finding relief from restlessness and worry. When we're all caught up and we need some perspective on it, what's going to help? So from an insight perspective, developing a wise attitude to the hindrances is, of course, important to transforming them. And so not taking them personally and not believing their perspectives, as we've just been looking at, also applies in removing them as well. And that certainly worked for me recently. So as soon as I saw through the identification, as I was saying, the construction all came tumbling down and I was free of the restlessness and worry. And in the teachings, there are some traditional antidotes to counteract restlessness and worry. And these are to develop calm and quietude. And the awakening factors of tranquility or calm, concentration or collectedness, and equipoise are also traditional antidotes. So to bring these about, and this is all about not pushing the restlessness and worry away, but to bring in a balance to them, if you like. So to bring these about, we might focus on the breathing, for example, and the out breath in particular. So lengthening the exhalation and emphasizing the relaxation and letting go of the out breath is really helpful. Or we might bring attention to the simple joy of being in the present moment. And in particular, having present moment awareness of the whole body. And remembering here too that the hindrances generally result in a contracted body awareness. So we might not be aware of the body at all. We might be just, acting like heads on sticks and just, only aware of what's happening in the mind. So expanding awareness out to include whole body awareness can really counteract the tendency of restlessness and worry to contract into the mind. And then anything that settles the mind and grounds us in the body is really helpful. So we might go out for a walk, take time out in nature, try some gentle movement like yoga, tai chi, qigong. So all of this helps with gaining spaciousness around the mind state so that we can meet them from a more grounded and therefore a less activated way. So I just want to mention here too the matter of right effort, because I think it's particularly relevant here. And some of you might know the the story where the Buddha uses the simile of a veena, which is like a lute. And he talks about this in the Sona Sutta, S-O-N-A, Sona Sutta, where he describes the strings on the veena as being either tuned too tightly, making it impossible to play, or making it impossible to achieve a harmonious note. And he talks about the strings on the veena being too loosely strung, also making it impossible to play or to find a harmonious note. So we might use this simile for the mind, for the life of the mind. And so when we bring effort into practice or into our daily lives with mindfulness, we're trying to find this balance between being neither too tight nor too loose to create a harmonious sound or a harmonious life, if you like. So we need to expend effort in our practice of training the mind. But if we push too hard, experience can become really tight and strained. So, and I find that restlessness and worry can often have this quality to it, that we're pushing too hard somehow. So backing off and bringing some playfulness and relaxation in can really help soften things and bring release to the body-mind. And so those antidotes that I was just speaking about, bringing movement to the body and getting grounded through the feet, through walking or gentle movement, can really help. On the other hand, if we don't make enough effort and we just, we let restlessness and worry just carry us away and we're just not aware of what's going on, things can become really vague and indistinct. So in that case, we might need to bring more precision and structure to what we're doing, to bring brightness to the mindfulness, bring more mindfulness into what we're doing. So this step corresponds then to the third noble truth of knowing the experience of letting go of reactivity to what's happening. And really feeling the release of the hindrances in the body and the heart and mind as we work with them and feel the spaciousness coming back in. This is like a glimpse, a foretaste of the final goal of liberation from suffering. And then finally, just to touch on the fifth step in this 5-step process, is preventing restlessness and worry from arising in the future. And this corresponds to the fourth noble truth of the Eightfold Path, so which is about living and acting skillfully and wisely, moment to moment. So one helpful thing we can do, I think, to prevent the hindrances from arising in the future is to keep the ethical basis of our practice in mind. And for me, this has become more important over the years as I've been practicing, recognizing that when we reflect on our commitment to the Dharma and our motivations for practicing and doing this on a regular basis, these principles of non-harming, of practicing for peace or for the liberation of all beings, or however we want to describe that to ourselves, that kind of ethical foundation of our practice, keeping that in mind, can really help dissolve any residue of remorse or agitation. And it can also bring in lightness and joy and ease more regularly into the heart and mind. So it's like counteracting the residue of the hindrances. And also, I think it's helpful to reflect on the ever-changing impersonal nature of the flow of experience, and to keep appreciating in whatever way works for us, appreciating the interdependent nature of it all. Reminding ourselves that nothing stands still or alone, that we're all connected, in the vast mystery of this existence, and that not one iota of it can be called me or mine, and is therefore worth clinging to. So, and it's all, it's all impermanent, it's all impersonal, and that our practice is to meet and embrace it just as a friend, just as we would meet and embrace a friend, even the restlessness and worry. We embrace it all, and then when we understand it, we can let it go. Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you. Let's sit together for a moment or two. Thank you all for your kind attention.